Hey guys, this is Esther. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of Craft With Me True Crime Tuesday. If you're new to my channel, Craft With Me True Crime Tuesday is when I work on a project that I'm working on and we craft together. And while we're crafting together, I tell you guys a true crime story. Let me get started. I'm just going to be crocheting some crow bows because I'm working on my spring swap and I'm going to make some crow bow dangles for my partners because I have two partners. So that's what I'll be working on today. Yarn from Hobby Lobby, hook from Hobby Lobby. That's all I'm using. So anyways, let's get right into it. Actually, really quick before I get started, I did want to say warning. This is for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised as I will be using descriptive and strong language. Viewer discretion, again, is advised. Alrighty, guys, so today we're going to be talking about Eileen Wuornos. Now, Eileen Wuornos was, to some, they gave her the title, or they called her the first female serial killer. However, I kind of disagree with that because I know that there has been other females who have had a large victim number. Eileen was born on February 29th, 1956 in Rochester, Michigan. Now, Eileen, guys, she had it rough right from the beginning. Like, ever since she was a little girl, she had it rough. Eileen's parents were actually divorced, and her dad was not in her life because he was in jail. He was in jail for the rape and attempted murder of a 7-year-old girl. Yes, guys, I said 7. And then in 1969, he decided that he did not want to live anymore, and he hanged himself. Hung himself? Hanged? Hung? I think the correct way to say it is hanged. I don't know, it kind of sounds wrong to me, but I think it is the correct way to say it. He hanged himself. She never got to see him, meet him, whatever. And her mom wasn't all that great. I mean, no judgment or anything, but she took Eileen and her brother Keith, because she had a brother Keith who was about a year or so older than her. She took them both to her parents' house. So she took Eileen and her brother to her grandparents' house and left him there. She left him there and she never returned. She never looked back. So then the grandparents legally adopted Eileen and her brother Keith, and they were raised by the grandparents. However, y'all, you would think, okay, well, now she's with the grandparents, everything's going to be fine. But it turns out that the grandpa was like a really heavy, like super duper heavy drinker. He had like a really bad temper. And when he would drink and he would spank them, he would get them in trouble. He would take down their pants and he would whoop them. I mean, it wasn't like a spanking. It was like a whooping. Back in the day, it was more normal to spank your child, but some people would take it too far, like Eileen's grandpa. And Eileen didn't really have a lot of friends because she had a very explosive temper as well. Even though she was small, she had very explosive temper tantrums. So a lot of the kids in the neighborhood were like afraid of her. They didn't want to be her friend because she would get into one of these temper tantrums. She would hit them or whatever. So she didn't have a lot of friends. So her like closest friend, or her BFF, was really her brother. He was the one who was always there with her. In her confession letter that she wrote, she said that by the time she was 10 and Keith was around 11 or 12, they started experimenting sexually with each other. And it wasn't like a one-time thing, like it happened several times. And there was even a neighborhood kid who said that, yeah, he saw it, and they interviewed him and he was like, yeah, I saw it. And, you know, at the time I thought it was normal. I thought that's what people did. You know, when they're little, they don't know. So yeah. And then Eileen also started sneaking out of the house to go hang out with like older kids. I forgot what the place is called, but there was like this one hangout spot where all the kids would hang out. Well, she wanted to hang out there, so she would sneak out and go there. And at first, you know, they weren't very accepting of her because she's like 10. But by the time she's 11, she's already engaging in sexual acts with these boys in exchange for like money and cigarettes, which, by the way, I mean, this is a side note. These kids were kids themselves. I mean, 14, 15 maybe. How much money did they give her, and where did they get this money from? Was this like their lunch money they were just spending on her and didn't eat? I don't know. And where were they getting the cigarettes from? But I guess, I mean, if Eileen's out there at 11, they're probably out there as well. So I don't know. It's just kind of sad. Actually, not kind of, it's very sad. And although her grandparents didn't know that she was sneaking out and going out with these boys and doing these things, they were noticing that her grades were failing, so she was doing bad in school. So they knew she was up to no good, and she was, doing something that wasn't okay. But at the age of 14, Eileen becomes pregnant. But they didn't know that she was pregnant until she was in like her second trimester. And because she had kept it a secret, or I don't know. I couldn't really find out if it was because she herself didn't really know or she didn't want to get in trouble. Either way, her grandparents finally find out, and that's when she tells them, well, this man from the neighborhood raped me and blah, blah, blah. So they send her away to a unwed mother's home so that she can go and have her baby and give it up for adoption. She goes away, she has her baby. When she has the baby, they don't even let her see him. I believe she had a boy. They don't even let her see him. Like, they just take him away and they put him up for adoption, and she never saw him. So she has her baby, and then she returns home. And when she returns home, that's kind of when things get even worse than what they were. Her grandma ends up dying a little bit after she comes home, and her grandpa was like, I can't deal with you anymore, and he kicks her out. She's like 15, and he kicks her out of the house, and kicks Keith out as well. So he kicks both of them out. So when he kicks them out, Keith, her brother, stays in the neighborhood, and he stays with some friends. But Eileen decides, like, I'm not staying here. I don't want to be here no more. And she hits the road. So she lived on the road, and she survived by the only way she knew how, which was prostitution. And she finally settled into Florida. I believe it was Daytona. And there, you guys, she married a 76-year-old man who met her while she was, working the freeways. And he offered to marry her and give her a different life. However, that did not last very long. It lasted about 2 months or maybe a little more, because Eileen was just not used to I guess you could say, a regular life. She was still struggling with her temper, with her outbursts, and he claimed, or he said, that he stopped giving her like spending money, and she took his cane and she beat him. So that's why he filed for divorce, which in my opinion is a good reason to file for divorce. So then she was out in the streets again. She was living the only life she's kind of known, just, selling herself and hitchhiking to get around. That was her lifestyle, and she was back at it. In July 76, she received the horrible news that her brother Keith had died. He was really young. He was like in his 20s. He had died from throat cancer. She was devastated, so she threw herself into drinking a lot, drowning her sorrows, which seems to be how a lot of people cope with sorrow, like they drink a lot. So she fully throws herself into the drinking scene. She would just work basically to get drunk, and when she'd sober up, she'd be back at it. She would work the freeway exits. That's where she would pick up her clients or customers. I don't know, her men. I don't know what they're called. One day in 1978, she was 22 years old. She thought, you know what, I'm so tired of this life. And she took a gun and shot herself in the stomach. She recovered. They asked her if this was the first time she had done it. She's like, no, it's not the first time I tried to kill myself. And even though she told them that, they gave her very little, psychological treatment or psychological evaluation, like the minimum, but they didn't really help her out. Anyways, she heals and she goes on her merry way back to living the only way she knows how. And 3 years later, she is, I believe, living with a guy, or she has a boyfriend, and of course it's a tumultuous relationship, a toxic relationship, and she wants to prove herself to him. So she goes and she robs a like a mini mart, like a convenience store, with a gun in a bikini, y'all. Like, she is wearing a bikini. And she robs this store. So everybody's like scared and whatnot, of course. And so then she leaves, they give her the money, and she gets in her car, and her getaway car is like run down car, and she's like on the freeway and it overheats. The car overheats and she has to pull over. She has to pull over because the car has overheated, and by now, they've called the cops and everything. So they're like, yeah, she's wearing a bikini. She looks like this. This is her getaway car, blah, blah, blah. And she's pulled over on the road because her car has overheated. So they do catch her and they do put her in jail for 3 years. She was sentenced to 3 years for robbing the store at gunpoint. So she does 3 years and she gets out when she is 27 years old. And when she gets out, she's like, all right, back at it again. I mean, this is a side note. Like, what do you guys think she could have done? I mean, she knows nothing. She knows nobody. All her life has been violence, drugs, alcohol, and sex. Ever since she was little, that's all she's known. She gets out. I mean, I guess if she really had wanted to change, she could have gone somewhere, asked for help to maybe start up or something. I don't know. I wonder if there was no help back in the 80s like there is now. So anyway, she's out and she's doing her thing that she knows how to do because that's how she knows how to survive. It's worked for her in the past, so why wouldn't it work for her again? So in 86, she's 28 years old, and she says that that's when she turned lesbian. She had started working biker bars, so that's where she met Tyra. And Tyra was 24 years old at this time, and that is who she became romantically involved with, and that is who her partner was. So, during the day, Eileen would work the freeways like she always had, and that is how she would bring money for both of them. Basically, kind of just barely making it. They lived from one place to another. They lived in like hotel rooms. They lived in houses. I believe they even lived like in a trailer park at one point. Basically, it was like whatever they could afford at the moment, that's what they would live in. And it was paid through with Eileen's work. So now Eileen is 33. She feels like she has found the person who is loving her unconditionally, who doesn't judge her, who doesn't think any less of her. And in interviews, though, Tyra does say that, Eileen still has like her tantrum episodes, and it does become embarrassing at sometimes because, they'd be at the store, and if somebody would look at Eileen wrong, or she thought somebody was looking at her the wrong way, she would get upset. She'd be like, what are you looking at? And, kind of want to start a fight or something. And then, of course, as with any relationship, there's problems. And then, because there wasn't a lot of income coming in, that is when, tension in the relationship started to happen. And Eileen started to worry that she was going to lose Tyra. All her life, she had just turmoil relationships. And now here's this one relationship that she really likes, that she's happy in. And the last thing she wants is to lose it. So she wants to do everything in her power to keep Tyra happy. So on November 30th of 89, Eileen was, working the freeway exit, and she was picked up by a man. I'm not going to say the victims' names. I mean, if you guys want to know, you guys can Google them. But she was picked up by a man, her first victim, and he propositioned her and she accepted, and they pulled over and kind of parked in the wooded area of the freeway, and they drank. They just drank there and talked until dawn. And then out of nowhere, she just shoots him 4 times. And then she drags his body out of the car and she kind of dumps him where the car was parked. And you know how sometimes people throw garbage out of the window, or sometimes I don't even know how, like, furniture ends up on the freeway, stuff that falls off of trucks. And I don't know if people don't notice, or they notice and they're like, meh, I'm not going to pick it up, it's too heavy. Like, I don't know how bigger pieces of furniture and stuff like that falls on the freeway and it just stays there. But there was a piece of rug, or it was like a rug. I believe it was a rug or a piece of rug. And she covers him with it. And she also puts like some debris on top of him, like leaves and greenery. And just, she was hiding the body the best she could. She gets in the car and she leaves. And she goes home to Tyra. And when she gets home, she tells Tyra what she had done. But Tyra in her interview says that she didn't believe her, that she didn't think she had it in her. Now, side note here, but I'm sorry, but if David came home and told me that he had done that, and I see that he has a car that is not ours, I mean, if that doesn't scream sus, I don't know what does. Like, this is just my opinion, my thought, my personal say, but like, girl, how is you gonna say that you didn't think it was true when she has a car that is obviously not hers? She says that she didn't believe her, and that's why she did not go to the police when she told her, because she thought that she was just making it up. So then, they use the car, whatever. But then Eileen was like, I need to get rid of this car. So she goes and she takes all the contents of the car, like everything that was inside the car, and she dumps it in one area. And then she takes the car, she wipes it down to wipe down her fingerprints and all that. She wipes it all down, and then she dumps the car in another area. So the contents are in one area, the body's in another area, and the car is in another area. So it's, she's making it hard for the police. And she goes on her merry way and continues life as if nothing had happened. Then 6 months later, I guess figuring that she had gotten away with the first one, she goes and she doesn't kill 1 or 2, but she kills 3 more men in the same way. And police don't know that these are all connected together. And she's doing the same thing. She's making it hard for the police because she's getting rid of the cars, the bodies, and the contents in different areas. And the cops are looking for a male. They're not really thinking, oh, this could be a female. And then on July 4th, I think, of 1990, they had a close call, like legit close call. So Tyra's driving this car, and I guess she's going too fast or whatever, and they end up crashing. And people get off, when you see an accident. So they're like, oh, are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, we're fine. And they call paramedics, and Eileen is like, oh, shoot, they're going to see that we're driving this car. And it was like the car of one of her victims. So Eileen grabs the license plates, bare hands, rips it off of the car, and then tosses it into like the brush. And then the fire department or the rescue team comes, and they're like trying to ask them questions, and they're like acting all belligerent, and they're like, no, we don't know. And then they just, how this happened, I don't know, but it says that they just got away. I don't know how that would happen, like why they would just let them leave, or if they just ran, like they're like, 1, 2, 3, run, or like, I don't know how it happened, but they left the scene. And so they're like, and the police finally realizes that it is a stolen car, and it is the car of a man who was reported missing. So what they do, because these 2 girls had already like booked it, is they do like a composite sketch drawing of the women, and they put it out in their like local news, but it was just like for their city. Yeah, so if anybody would see them, to call the police department. Obviously, they were already gone. They had gone back to Daytona. And then over the next 5 months, she would go and kill 3 more men. And police are starting to like connect the dots and see that, what's going on here. And then they realize that it's also connected, or they think it's connected to the accident of, the missing car. They're like, okay. And they start seeing that these men were all killed with like the same caliber gun and stuff like that. So now they take that sketch drawing that went out to like the local city, and they put it statewide. And people are now starting to call from Daytona, and they're like, yeah, I think I've seen them over here, or that looks a lot like Eileen. That looks kind of like Tyra. So then the cops are starting to get all these tips. And Tyra is like, look, I'm outie 5,000. She leaves Eileen, like she ditches her, and she goes with her sister. And of course, Eileen is devastated, but she, keeps going, and she keeps living her life, doing her thing. And in December, the police get a break because one thing that a lot of thieves, robbers do is they pawn items. And the police get a break when one of the items from one of the victims was pawned. Of course, when you pawn something, you have to show ID. I mean, that's if the pawn shop is doing it legally, which they were. Luckily, they were. And so Eileen had to show ID, and that is how they caught her, because she had to also put her print, like her thumbprint. I guess when they did the receipt and stuff, they had to put their thumbprint on it. So they decide like they don't want to arrest her right away. So they follow her for like 2 days. And they kind of see her pattern and see the things she does. And they know that she hangs out in like biker bars and stuff like that. And one of the biker bars was going to be having like a festival or some kind of like biker reunion. So they were worried that she would like skip town, that she would find someone she could hitchhike a ride from and just, leave. So they arrest her. So now they have Eileen, and now they start looking for Tyra, and they find Tyra at her sister's in Pennsylvania. She was very cooperative. She told them, I didn't know anything. I was not there. I do not know anything. And she even agreed to work with the police. Like, she was like, yeah, I'm on your side. So she would record calls with Eileen. And she would tell him like, oh, look, the police are coming to my house. They're telling my family. They're like harassing us, blah, blah, blah. She's like victimizing herself as, look, I don't know what's going on. I didn't do anything. And so, of course, because Eileen is like madly in love, and she, I don't know, I guess wants to hold on to whatever could be of them. And on January 16th, 1991, Eileen confesses to everything, and she makes it very, very clear when she's doing her confession. She's like, there's a lot of videos on YouTube where you can see her confession, and she's like, I did this alone. Nobody else helped me. The other girl, or Tyra, it was just me alone. Like, she makes it very, very clear. So basically, she's like telling them, leave her alone. She was out of this. So in a way, Eileen got played by Tyra, because I'm sorry, again, my personal opinion, like, dude, if David was coming home with a car and money and telling me I could pay the rent now, look at all this money, and it would all be sus to me. Like, I'd be like, interesting. Like, I know she knew all those cars weren't theirs. Where was she getting the cars from? Like, was she not asking questions? Was she not curious to know where this money was coming from? How could she not think Eileen was doing something different other than just, working the highways if she was bringing in more money? I don't know. That's just my personal thought on it. However, when she said that she was like a one-man show, that nobody helped her, She also did say that all her killings were in self-defense, that she only killed them because they were going to harm her. So after she's done like confessing to everything she's done, guys, I don't know if you guys can hear that music. So I apologize if you can. I can't. It's the neighbors. So anyways, after she's done confessing to like all the murders, she is charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. So then on January 15th, 92, like a year after she had been in jail, she went on trial for her very first victim. So her defense team tried to play the victim card that she killed them because it was self-defense. She had felt threatened, and that is why she killed them. And then Tyra takes the stand, and I think that Eileen was not aware of how much Tyra had betrayed her, because basically that is what she did. Eileen did not know that Tyra was for the prosecuting team until she saw her up on that stand. And of course, Eileen feels betrayed and her heart is broken into 1,000,000 pieces. But you know, it is what it is. And then Eileen decides to take the stand in her defense. She is actually the only witness in her defense. Like, there's nobody else there to say, oh yeah, Eileen is good, or, you know, she has nobody. You know, as she takes the stand, you can tell that she's got like anger problems, and instead of helping her case, I think it kind of didn't really do much. And there were times when she was like acting like the victim, and other times she's kind of like saying they deserved it. And so she's kind of all over the place. So on January 27th, after only deliberating for 2 hours, the jury comes back with a guilty verdict, which I feel like they already kind of knew. And as they're walking out, as the jury's walking out, Eileen is like yelling at them, calling them like scumbags and stuff like that. So then it's not funny that, you know, she's doing that, but like, it's like, dude, you killed the men, you said you did it. Okay, but yeah, you got caught. I'm not sure what she was expecting to happen. So on January 31st, 1992, she is sentenced to death by lethal injection. And she, at this time, is 36 years old. She went ahead and pushed for her execution. She did not want to wait for it. She did not want to appeal anything. She, you know, but I guess by law, she's entitled, or she has these appeals. And she was like, no, I don't want them. Just get on with it. She goes before the board of people, judges, whatever, and she's like, no, y'all need to execute me. And so they grant her request to exhaust, or to not even go forward with her appeals. She says on one of when she's there at the court, she says that there's really no point, or there's no reason to keep her alive because, quote, I have hate crawling through my system, unquote. And that's kind of like, you know, like she's basically saying, look, if you let me out there again, I'm going to do it again. So, because I hate everybody. And she is scheduled to be executed on October. And mind you guys, that even though she pushed for her execution, this took like 10 years, all this fighting back and forth. I don't understand why the wheels of justice turn so slow, but I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. So yeah, guys, on October 9th, 2002, at the age of 46 years old, Eileen Wuornos was given the lethal injection, and she was then cremated because that was her wish, to be cremated. And there was one person who remained her friend throughout the whole time, and it was one of her childhood friends, and she is the one that took her ashes and she planted a tree and put the ashes of Eileen under the tree. All right, guys, so I was only able to do one, but that is it. That is the story of Eileen Wuornos, a woman with a lot of hate towards men. And I mean, I don't blame her. I'm not justifying her, my own personal opinions. But yeah, she had it hard since the beginning. And I'm sorry, but I still believe that her girlfriend, Tyra, she knew more than what she said, and I don't know. That's just me, my opinion. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out in this super long chatty craft with me. I love doing these. I hope that you guys like listening to them. I know it's been a while, and I've been getting messages from you guys to make more, and ta-da, here's one. Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I hope that you guys like this video, and if you haven't yet, subscribe and join our tiny family. Hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.